probably turn the sound off on the PC. Let's try that again. Hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to my live stream. This is the second one. Let's start this as we need to go on. Thank you so much last week for joining in and participating. I'm just going to try and pull the chat up on screen now. I'm hoping everyone can hear me and everything's working well. Let's check this out. So if I go pop-up chat, see this? This is a new approach. Right, how do we do that? How's that working? Okay. Hello everyone, hope we're all good. It's a bit warm in here. It's really warm in Brighton today. It's been warm in Brighton for the last couple of days. We're all still in isolation, of course. Hope you're all safe, hope you're all happy. Yeah, quick shout out again to Roland and Boss for sending this VR1 HD for me to be able to do these streams. It's very cool and very useful, and it allows me to do this, which is cool. So that's one shout out. I'd also like to shout out Dan Davies for his continued support and helpful assistance when it comes to getting this working, because it's still fresh to me trying to do it. So I'm glad that it's actually working properly. If it wasn't for Dan, it wouldn't be. So this week on Stereo Sundays, all about Neural DSP. If we all know who they are, I'm sure you do. They're a software-based guitar and bass sim sort of plugin company, and they make incredible plugins. What you just heard was actually the plugins. So there's a couple of things I want to talk about in this live stream, and that's a couple of hacks that are really useful to be able to use these plugins more than just in one instance, be able to use a couple of instances of Neural plugins to get like a stereo rig. In essence, when I imagine you've got a 5150 and a JVM, for example, it's like that. I've got a little hacked so you can actually use two plugins and blend the sound of the amps, as it were. So I'm going to show you how you do that. I've also done a YouTube video about that as well, so that will be coming out on my YouTube channel next week. So we're going to cover that, and we're going to go over some tones. And one of the cool things is that I've set up a Dropbox link. So all the presets that I've created and that I create during this live stream, I'm going to put them in that Dropbox link. So if you go into the description of this live stream, you should be able to get those and load them up on your own versions of the Archetype plugins and try them out for yourself. So there's a little bit of educational stuff to go over. in terms of how you set things up, how you route things, and then just generally how you go about dialing it in. There's a few things to bear in mind. So yeah, that's where we'll start. So let me show you what I've got going on. So let's go back to Logic. Let's get that up and running. I just set a little loop going for myself. But what we're actually wanting to do here is check out the plugins. So I'm just going to put those on screen so you can see what's going in. Right, there we go. So I'm currently running, actually, for the sake of OCD, what you're going to hear in your ears is a Bassy plugin, Archetype of Bassy's on the left, and Archetype Pliny's on the right. So I've set up, this is actually a patch that I designed for the Strat. So this is how it sounds. So that is just two versions of Archetype. That, as I said, that's a Bassy and Pliny, and you were hearing that with some drives in front and some compression. So if I take the drives off, so I think that sounds really, really good. I love the way that sounds, in fact. I just think, you know, nowadays we're talking about plugins here. That's a plugin. And to be honest, when we're talking about specifically guitar-related plugins, you know, when we're talking about clean sounds, that's the part that I'm like, you know, is it going to pull it off? And the thing with neural DSP plugins is, and this isn't just because, you know, we're talking about them in this specific live stream, but they're genuinely really great feeling, especially if you're using like a low latency situation, which is what I run. But it just feels really good. There's really no latency as such, and on top of that, it's the feel of it's really good and the sound is great. So yeah, it feels great. So before we crack onto the sort of educational side, as it were, we should answer some questions, as you can see them up on screen here. Oh, there are so many questions. Let's answer a couple. Sounds awesome, but you have almost low latency. Does this mean that you have it really low bit rate? To be honest, when it comes to the way it's set up on my computer, like in terms of bit rate, if that's the right word, let me just get the right screen up. So I'm running it in oversampling in high. I don't know if this is answering your question, but I have a I run it on my iMac Pro, so I made sure my computer was powerful. Obviously, you need a reasonably powerful computer to run these plugins because it's CPU intensive. But I don't think it would be too difficult to run two of these together. Like, I don't think that's going to be high and difficult on your CPU. And on top of that, I'm running it with high oversampling. So maybe Neural, if they're on this thread, which I did see they are, can answer that question for me. So yeah. let's see what else we've got going on before I start showing you the tricks that I got sorted out here. Other tones versatile. Thank you very much. Hi from France. Did you prefer the upgraded Strat or your custom telly? So thank you for the question. I've just upgraded my Strat. Well, I've not. Yeah, I have. I put a gold anodized pick guard on it, as you can see. Really, really happy with the way that looks now, because it was just a 50 scratch plate before. And, you know, as much as I'm a fan of sort of keeping things as they're supposed to be, didn't really like the way it looked. So I got a 50s scratch plate with the sort of 50s screw holes. And these are some Radio Shop RSV 57 pickups, which when I first put them in, I was like, I'm not sure these are what for me. But because I had them, I got given them from a friend. But after trying them and for a few days, I actually really like the way they sound. You know what I mean? It's a really, really nice sound. We're not going there. That's almost as bad as playing Stairway these days. Okay, let's carry on with the questions. Let's have a go. So if anyone found the Dropbox folder, you will have found the secret message that I put in there. Why are you hearing a clicking sound? Okay, I'm just going to say this now. Probably the reason that you're hearing the clicking sound, because I got asked this on the last live stream, it's because my laptop's here. I'm using the laptop, obviously, to stream this. So I guess in the future, I'll need to move this further away, but it's quite useful to monitor everything. But basically, when I turn my guitar up, you're probably going to hear that, and I apologize for that in advance. Anyway, let's crack on with what I did want to talk about, and that's the meat and bones of this particular live stream, and that is going to be setting up your DAW so that you can run 2 instances of new DSP plugins in tandem, get stereo riggage. So let's jump over to this screen here and crack on. So first things first, we're opening Logic up, and you want to open up a track, let's say input 1 or input 2, for example. So in my case, I'm using input 2, and that's where my guitar's going in. It's going straight into my audio interface into input 2. And the thing is, when you're using a DAW, so whether it's Cubase, Logic, Pro Tools, Luna, which is sick, by the way, it's just come out. You know, obviously, it's the one signal. I can't record 2 things at once with the same signal like that, you know, because it's the same input. And Logic, at least, doesn't allow me to do that. So I was like, I want to be able to use the Neural DSP plugins in tandem and create stereo rigs and blend stuff. So the way I've got it kind of set up, and I've done a video, it's going out on my YouTube channel really soon, but just to give you a quick idea of what's happening, we've got our input, 2 versions of our inputs, both input 2, as you can see here. And then underneath, I've got my different instances of my archetypes, so I'm going to blend a few different amps so you can hear. This is a gain plugin to invert the phase, because I needed to invert the phase for some reason, just did. The next thing to bear in mind is that I'm using software monitoring to hear what you're hearing. That's basically how I'm able to hear 2 versions of the archetype at the same time. But the trick here is, and to be able to record this, is that you need to set your outputs. If you use a universal audio interface, or you use like a Focusrite, or anything that has its own mix station, like its own mix app, so you can route things, different outs and ins and stuff like that. Basically, you want to set your outputs on your DAW to whatever they're going to be on your console audio interface, for example. So let me open my console app. So as you can see here in Logic, I've got out 13 and 14 set on both. And then when I go into my personal I/O matrix, or basically my ins and outs on my audio interface, I can see, if I scroll down, where am I looking? 13, 14. So my outputs 13 and 14 are my virtual channels. So basically I'm sending the signal from Logic into my interface as a virtual instrument. That gets picked up here. So if you can see, my mouse is hovering over, my mouse is hovering over virtual 1, 2. That's the signal from Logic. So then, if I want to record a dual amp signal, I go back into my ins and outs, and I look at where my virtual instrument is as an input. So I have to find it. Virtual 1, 2 is 21, 22. That's just how it's set up on my interface. And if I go back into Logic and create a stereo track with inputs 21 and 22, that is the virtual instrument. So now I can record. I'm just going to mute it, but you'll be able to see quite clearly here when I play. I'm getting signal to that track, and that's basically an audio signal. So that's going to basically double track my stereo rig, which is really cool. It's a really cool hack. So let me just record something real fast, just so you can hear what happens. So if I go ahead and record. Okay. So I've just recorded that. And let's play it back. I don't know how loud this is going to be, but let's try it. So there you go. That's basically how I'm able to track archetype, two instances of archetype at the same time. You could do this with multiple. You could load up loads of plugins. Oh, it's frozen. Oh no. No image. Oh no. Video is frozen on the stream. Might want to switch ankles. Oh no, that's really bad. Can you all still hear me though? Technical issues. Well, we managed 17 minutes and 37 seconds into the stream. I don't know why that is. Audio is fine. Oh, this is really sad. We were doing so well. Okay, I don't really know how to fix this. Okay. Let's see if it's caught back up with itself. Can anyone hear me? Anyone seeing anything? Oh, this is really rubbish. Okay. Okay. Bear with me 1 second, people. I'm going to do my best to fix this. James? James? Restart. What a stupid thing. Restart stream. I think this is entertaining. Me too. This is a real pain in the ass. I'm not even going to lie to you. Right, let's try this again.